A text from my mom at 2 a.m. sent me into a state of pure shock. I couldn't believe it. How was this possible? I saw what happened to her back in that town. That wasn't her. And Dad too. Those weren't my parents. The haze from the brandy I'd drunk vanished instantly. The message was simple. We'll be in the city tomorrow. I tried not to think about the worst-case scenario, which was, of course, them showing up at my apartment. But that thought was stuck in my head, playing on a loop. I went to the kitchen and poured myself another 2 fingers of the same brandy, hoping it would at least help me fall asleep. But with the sheer terror of what I'd been through, and the dread of what was coming, sleep was out of the question. What was I supposed to do? That question spun in my head alongside the thoughts of my parents, who weren't my parents, visiting. It was insane. Anyway, those 2 fingers were followed by another 4 and then some more. I ended up polishing off half a bottle of brandy and passed out drunk right there on the kitchen floor. I slept for a long time. Just before dawn, I managed to stumble to the living room and collapsed on the couch. I didn't wake up until 3 in the afternoon. When I opened my eyes, I felt like hell. My head was pounding with a brutal hangover. I really tied one on, I thought to myself. My mouth tasted like a herd of cats had used it as a litter box. Half dead, I dragged myself to the kitchen to deal with the dehydration. My condition was the absolute worst. I'm not much of a drinker. That brandy had just been sitting around since my birthday last year. I spent the rest of the day until about 8 p.m. lying in front of the TV, slowly starting to feel a bit more human. The headache was beginning to fade, but it came roaring back about 10 minutes later when I picked up my phone to check the time and call my friend. There was a text and a missed call. "Son, we're in the city. We'll be at your place soon." To be honest, up until that moment, I'd forgotten the whole nightmare, completely focused on my pounding head and wanting it to stop. Now it all came rushing back. A wave of goosebumps ran over my entire body. The images from the town flashed before my eyes again. The torn-apart driver, my parents with their twisted faces, and those things that crawled out of the yards. I just stood there, phone in hand, completely stunned for a good 10 minutes. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and lit a cigarette. The only thing I could think to do was call my friend Mike, who lives a couple of blocks over, and ask him to come over. "Hey Mike, what's up?" "Hey man, how are you?" "Not great, honestly." "What happened? You at work today, Mike?" "Yeah, why?" "Come over after your shift. Grab some beer and head straight here." "Whoa, what's the occasion?" "I'll tell you when you get here," I said, my tone dead serious, and hung up. I waited for Mike to arrive more anxiously than I'd ever waited for anything in my life. His company was the only thing that could possibly distract me from all this. Plus, we hadn't seen each other in a while. I missed the guy. The wait was agonizing. Time crawled by, and it was stressing me out immensely. I was terrified I'd get another text from my mom. Or worse, a phone call. I hadn't eaten all day, just smoked and drank coffee. I spent the evening lying on the couch, watching TV. Suddenly, the phone rang, and I jumped. I prayed to God it was Mike, but no, Mom. With trembling hands, I picked up the phone, and some damn impulse made me answer. "Hello? Hello, son? We've brought your things. What's the code for the front door intercom?" My heart started hammering so hard I thought it would leap right out of my chest and onto the hallway floor. The intercom. Why didn't I think of that? The apartment door is a solid, heavy metal one. They shouldn't be able to get through it, at least not easily. "Hello, son. We're coming up." The last word she said wasn't in her own voice, I swear to you. It was like several voices at once, deep and rough, like grown men. I can't even put into words the insane fear I felt. On wobbly, weak legs, I went out onto the balcony and cautiously peered over the edge. Thankfully, the light by the front entrance was on, and I could see everything clearly. They were really there, standing by the entrance. Mom, Dad. But goddammit, I knew it wasn't them. I had no idea what kind of hellish shit this was. They were standing there in the same clothes they were wearing that last night in the town. Mom in her nightgown, Dad in his undershirt and boxers. They were perfectly still. I watched them from the balcony, but my observation didn't last long. At one point, Dad suddenly jerked his head and looked straight up at my balcony. I almost shit myself in terror. Did they see me? Then came a powerful blow against the main entrance door. A sound like throwing a brick at a metal door. That's what it sounded like. Then another. With each thud, my heart sank deeper into my heels. I sat on the balcony floor, too scared to even move. Meanwhile, my parents, or rather not my parents, were trying to break into the building. And from that look he gave me, they knew I was here. My phone was blowing up with texts from Mom. "Sweetie, open up. Where have you been?" And so on. Then I heard a neighbor's door open inside the building and footsteps coming down the stairs, echoing through the stairwell. It was my neighbor, old man Mr. Henderson. "I'm going to give you a piece of my mind, you scumbags," he yelled, quickly descending the stairs. I could hear it clearly. I wish he hadn't done that. I immediately ran back to the balcony to see how this would end. The main door opened, and the cranky old neighbor started telling my parents exactly what he thought of them. Then it happened. My so-called dad calmly and silently just reached out and twisted the neighbor's head around. Mr. Henderson dropped to the ground. Then Mom grabbed him by the leg and dragged him over to the children's playground. There, in the sandbox, she started digging a hole with her hands. She did it incredibly fast, on all fours. It was a horrifying sight that made me fight back the urge to vomit. I lost that fight when she started slowly breaking his limbs, he was already dead, and then used her teeth to gnaw at the flesh so she could tear the limbs completely off. Using her hands and mouth, she dismembered the neighbor and buried him in the sandbox. The whole thing took her about 10 to 15 minutes. She did everything quickly and jerkily, while Dad just stood by the entrance waiting for her. I, meanwhile, scrambled away from the balcony wall, panicked, locked myself in a closet, and waited for God knows what. About 5 minutes later, exactly what I expected to happen happened. There was a knock on the door, and at the exact same time, a text came through on my phone. "Open up, son. Why are you hiding from us?" How? How did they know I was hiding? Then another text. "Open the damn door, you little shit. We know you're in there. The closet won't save you." The pounding on the door intensified, becoming more insistent. The handle jiggled, and I heard something scratching and poking at the keyhole from the outside. That's when I completely lost it, and I guess from the sheer shock, I passed out. I don't know how much time passed, but it was the dead of night, maybe 2 or 3 a.m. Someone was trying to wake me up. I opened my eyes and saw Mike and his girlfriend Jessica leaning over me. Disoriented, I tried to get up from the floor and sit on the couch. "Man, what the hell? Were you hiding in the closet or something?" Mike asked. "You better start talking. You're acting really weird." "Mike, you have no idea how happy I am to see you." "Jess, you too." I hugged my friends. "So, what's going on?" Mike asked, concerned. You wouldn't believe me. Let's go to the kitchen. I'll tell you everything." Walking into the kitchen, I first looked out the window. No one was standing by the entrance. Then I went to the hallway and peeked into the stairwell. It was empty, too. Mike followed me the whole time, with a puzzled look on his face. "Can you please explain what's going on?" "Mike, you didn't happen to see my parents outside the building or in the stairwell, did you?" "No, there was no one." "Why?" "Damn. Okay, I'll tell you, but you're going to think I've lost my mind." "I already think that," Mike said, smiling. "So tell me." "Okay, so I went to visit my folks out in the sticks, right? Thought I'd get some rest, but turns out the town doesn't even exist. Or, well, how the hell was I there with my parents then? And then these horrible things started happening. I started telling him about everything, lighting a cigarette. I looked up at Mike, and after a minute, it hit me. The kitchen light was on, and Mike was sitting right under it. He wasn't casting a shadow. I slowly stood up from the stool. Mike stood up with me. "Where you going, bro?" he said, his expression changing as if he realized I'd figured something out. "Just gotta run to the store. I'm out of smokes." Then it happened. Then occurred the thing I least expected. I walked into the hallway to put my shoes on, and he followed me. I slipped my shoes on and turned to face him. My heart sank into my heels for the umpteenth time. Standing in front of me was my dad. His limbs began to crack and break unnaturally, just like before. "Figured it out, you little shit," he snarled. After those words, Mom came out of the living room on similarly broken legs and arms, just like that old woman in the headscarf who had crawled out of the yard back in the town. I bolted for the apartment door, but it was no use. Dad grabbed me by the shoulder, so hard I nearly cried out in pain. I spun around and punched him right in the face. It stunned him just enough for me to break free. I slammed the apartment door shut behind me and ran for my life. Bursting out of the building, I saw that my friends, Mike and Jessica, were lying in the flower bed by the entrance. Or rather, the bloody pulp that was left of them. I threw up and almost passed out again. But the sound of fast footsteps coming from inside the building brought me back to my senses, and I ran. I ran as fast as I could, without looking back, probably even faster than I had run from that town. Thank God I'd had the presence of mind to grab my jacket. I at least had a little cash in it. I have no idea how far I ran, but the feeling of being pursued refused to leave me. I hailed a cab and told the driver to take me anywhere to some hotel. I had nowhere else to go, and it was cold outside. Suddenly, they stepped out into the road ahead of us, the ones who were chasing me. The driver swerved sharply, and we were thrown forward. Everything went black. I woke up in a hospital. As it turned out, I had been in the ICU for a month. They're going to discharge me soon. I'll have to go back home. I hope everything will be okay. A month has already passed, after all. I still feel terribly guilty about Mike and Jessica's deaths, and one question still haunts me. What happened to my real parents, and who or what were those things that were chasing me wearing their faces?